Admiral George Wilson stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital command station. The blue glow from the control panels lit up his worn face. He stared at the stars, his mind heavy with worry. Just 3 days ago, a giant alien ship had appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, almost the size of a small moon. Lieutenant Susan Miller worked at her station nearby. Her fingers moved quickly over the touchscreens as she monitored the alien vessel. "Sir, they're calling us again," she said, looking up at Wilson. The Admiral took a deep breath. "Put them on screen." The big display in front of them flickered to life. An alien face appeared. The being had scaly skin that shimmered like oil on water. 4 amber eyes blinked at them. The alien wore what looked like a uniform with many badges and symbols. "I am Grand Marshal Zerketh of the Galactic Imperial Fleet," the alien said. Its voice sounded strange through the translation system, almost musical but with harsh edges. "I speak for Emperor Juval, ruler of 2,000 worlds. We welcome humanity to join our great empire as a protected world." Wilson kept his face calm, but inside he felt anger rising. Earth had only recently united after years of conflict. They had just started to explore their own solar system properly. Now some alien empire wanted to claim them like a prize. "This is Admiral Wilson of the United Earth Defense Force," he replied. "We thank you for your offer, but Earth is a free and independent planet. We do not wish to become part of your empire." The alien's upper eyes narrowed. The scales on its face shifted to a darker color. "Admiral, perhaps I wasn't clear," Zerketh said. "This is not an invitation that you can refuse. All planets in this sector belong to the Empire. You will receive our protection and follow our laws. This is how it has been for 10,000 years." Lieutenant Miller leaned close to Wilson and whispered, "Sir, our sensors show they're powering up weapon systems. Energy readings are off the charts." Wilson nodded slightly. Without looking away from the screen, he pressed a small button hidden in his sleeve cuff. Throughout the solar system, hidden defense platforms came to life. Earth had prepared for first contact for decades, and not all those preparations were peaceful. "Grand Marshal," Wilson said calmly, "let me also be clear. Earth does not recognize your authority. We have not agreed to join your empire. You are currently in Earth space without permission. You have exactly 1 hour to turn around and leave our system." The alien's scales now turned bright red. It leaned toward the screen. "You misunderstand your position, human," it said. "Your primitive weapons would not even scratch our smallest scout ship. The Empire controls thousands of star systems. Resistance is something we humans are very good at," Wilson cut in. 1 hour, Grand Marshal. You are not welcome here." Wilson signaled Miller to cut the connection. The screen went dark. "Did you send the silent alert?" Wilson asked. Miller nodded. "Yes, sir. All stealth ships are in position. The lunar defense grid is ready, and Project Lighthouse has been activated." "Good," Wilson said. He walked to the window and looked down at Earth. The blue planet seemed so peaceful from orbit. Most of its people had no idea what was happening above them right now. "I want hourly updates on the alien ship's position and status, and get me a secure line to the President." In the command room behind them, officers and technicians worked quickly. Displays showed the massive alien vessel hanging in space near Mars. Other screens showed Earth's defenses coming online, satellites moving into position, ground-based, weapon systems powering up, and the fleet of small but deadly stealth ships hiding among the asteroids. "Do you think they'll leave, sir?" Miller asked. Wilson shook his head. "No. Empires don't become empires by backing down. They'll try to teach us a lesson." He turned to face the room. "Which is why we need to teach them one first." In a secure bunker beneath the White House, President Olivia Carter received Wilson's call. Her face was grim as she listened to his report. "So diplomatic options have failed," she said when he finished. "I'm afraid so, Madam President. They expect us to surrender without a fight." The president looked at the other people in the room, military, leaders, scientists, and her closest advisors. Then she looked at one person in particular, a woman who sat quietly in the corner. The woman appeared human except for her unusual silver eyes. "Kelna, you know these people better than anyone," the president said. "Will they attack?" The woman nodded slowly. "The Empire does not tolerate defiance. They will try to disable your defenses as a show of force. They believe it will frighten you into surrender." The president turned back to Wilson's image on the screen. "Admiral, you have my authorization to proceed with Operation Hornet's Nest. Use whatever force is necessary to protect Earth, but remember our primary goal." "Yes, Madam President, not just to defend, but to send a message." The call ended. President Carter looked at her watch. 53 minutes until the deadline. Make sure all major cities have emergency services on standby, just in case. And inform our allies at the secret bases. On the Imperial ship, Grand Marshal Keth paced on the bridge. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Grand Marshal, our scans of the human defenses show nothing of concern. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are small and few." "Something doesn't feel right," Keth said. "No species has ever refused Imperial protection, especially not one so young and vulnerable. Perhaps they simply don't understand the honor being offered to them," the officer suggested. Keth stopped pacing and stared at the image of Earth on the main screen. "Perhaps. Or perhaps there is more to these humans than our reports suggest. Increase our scans, check the asteroid belt again, and prepare a small demonstration of our power when their deadline expires." As the hour passed, tension grew on both sides. On Earth, military forces went on high alert. In orbit, defense stations tracked the alien vessel's every move. And hidden throughout the solar system, Earth's secret weapons waited silently for the signal to strike. The deadline approached. Admiral Wilson stood straight, hands clasped behind his back, as he watched the final minutes tick away. He had sent humanity's answer to the stars. Now they would see how the Galactic Empire handled rejection. Dr. Nancy Rivera walked quickly through the long underground hallway. The facility was built deep beneath the ocean floor in the Mariana Trench. Very few people knew it existed. Her footsteps echoed against the metal walls as she hurried to the meeting room. 3 days had passed since Earth's ships had disabled the big Imperial vessel. During that time, the alien ship had stayed in orbit, unable to call for help or leave the solar system. Now Earth's leaders had invited some of the aliens down to talk. Nancy reached the security checkpoint and showed her special ID card. The guards nodded and let her through. She was the head of Earth's quantum physics division. Her work was some of the most secret on the planet. She entered the large meeting room where Admiral Wilson sat at a table. Across from him was a small alien with pale blue skin and large, thoughtful eyes. This alien was much smaller than the Grand Marshal who had first threatened Earth. It wore simple clothes rather than a military uniform. "Dr. Rivera," Wilson greeted her. "This is Science Officer Kelvon from the Imperial ship." Nancy nodded, politely to the alien. "It's interesting to meet you, Science Officer." The alien studied her with curious eyes. "Dr. Rivera, I understand you lead Earth's physics research. Perhaps you can explain how your people developed gravity control technology? According to our records, your civilization should not have such advanced science for at least 500 more years." Nancy looked at Wilson, who nodded slightly. It was time to reveal some of Earth's secrets. She touched a control panel on the table. A holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed ancient cave paintings from different parts of Earth, from Africa, Australia, Europe, and the Americas. All the paintings showed similar strange symbols and figures with glowing eyes. "We didn't develop these technologies on our own," Nancy explained. "About 15,000 years ago, Earth was visited by refugees from a great war in another galaxy. They called themselves the Void Walkers. They looked almost human except for their silver eyes. They came to Earth to hide from their enemies and mixed with early human societies." Kelvon's eyes widened. "The Void Walkers? They're considered almost mythical even in Imperial history. They disappeared after the Quantum Wars." "They didn't disappear," Wilson said firmly. "They hid here. Earth became their home, and humans became their protectors." Nancy continued, showing More images. Ancient texts, medieval drawings, and Renaissance-era diagrams that all contained hidden messages and symbols. Over thousands of years, they carefully shared their knowledge with chosen humans. They guided our scientific progress without changing our natural development. They were very careful not to give us technology we weren't ready for. She touched the control panel again, and new images appeared. Modern laboratories, advanced equipment, and people with unusual silver eyes working alongside regular humans. When we developed spaceflight and united as a planet, the remaining Voidwalkers revealed themselves to our governments. We learned that the enemy they had been hiding from was the Galactic Empire. Kelvon sat back in his chair, stunned. This explains so much. The Empire has been searching for Voidwalker technology for thousands of years. Their quantum sciences were far beyond anything we have, even now. Nancy nodded. The gravity weapons that disabled your ship were just a small example of what they've taught us. Admiral Wilson leaned forward. Which brings us to our current situation, Science Officer. Grand Marshal Zurketh remains on his disabled ship, still demanding Earth's surrender. But perhaps you can offer a more reasonable perspective on our options. The alien scientist was quiet for a moment, thinking. The Empire will not stop with one ship, Admiral. When they lose contact with us, they will send more vessels to investigate. We're counting on it, Nancy said with a small smile. That's exactly what the Voidwalkers have been preparing us for. Kelvon looked at her curiously. You want the Empire to send more ships? Why? Because we need to send a message, Wilson explained. Not just to your Grand Marshal, but to your Emperor and the entire Empire. Earth is not a planet to be conquered or added to your collection of worlds. We have the right to remain independent. In another part of the underground facility, Grand Marshal Zurketh was being shown something very different. He stood in a large room filled with strange machines. President Olivia Carter walked beside him. These are just a few of the defensive systems we've developed, she explained. The gravity disruptors that disabled your ship were small prototypes. These are the full-scale versions. Zurketh's scales darkened with anger. You show me these weapons to threaten the Empire? Do you know how many worlds we control? How many fleets we command? President Carter remained calm. We're not threatening you, Grand Marshal. We're simply showing you reality. Earth is not defenseless. We have no interest in attacking the Empire or interfering with your other worlds. We simply wish to be left alone. That is not how the Empire works, Zurketh said harshly. All worlds in our territory must accept Imperial rule. It is the way of the galaxy. Perhaps it's time for that way to change, said a new voice. Zurketh turned to see an older human man entering the room, except he wasn't entirely human. His eyes were silver, and they seemed to glow slightly. I am Professor John Butler, the man said. Though that's not my original name. My people came to Earth 15,000 years ago, fleeing from your Empire's expansion. Zurketh stepped back, his 4 eyes widening in shock. Voidwalker, your kind is supposed to be extinct, not. Extinct, Butler corrected him, hidden, protected by humanity, while we slowly recovered our numbers and our strength. Meanwhile, in the meeting room, Nancy continued explaining to Kelvon. She showed him more images. Blueprints for advanced ships and weapons unlike anything Earth had publicly revealed. The Voidwalkers didn't just give us technology, she said. They taught us how to think differently about space, time, and energy. They showed us how to build defenses that could protect not just Earth, but our entire solar system. And they told us about the Empire, Wilson added. About how it grows by finding new worlds, claiming their resources, and forcing them to obey Imperial laws and pay Imperial taxes. Kelvon looked down at the table. The Empire brings order to the galaxy. Without our protection, many worlds would fall to pirates or warlords. Protection shouldn't mean control, Nancy said firmly. Earth wants peaceful relations with all alien civilizations, including the Empire. But it must be as equals, not as rulers and subjects. Back in the weapons room, Grand Marshal Zurketh was growing more agitated as Professor Butler showed him one advanced system after another. Do you think these toys would stop an Imperial battle fleet? Shurketh demanded. When our reinforcements arrive, they will reduce your cities to ash. Your reinforcements are already on their way, President Carter said calmly. Our long-range sensors detected them entering the outer solar system an hour ago. Then you should surrender now, Shurketh said, his scales turning bright red with confidence. The Imperial fleet will not show mercy after your defiance. Professor Butler smiled slightly. Actually, Grand Marshal, we're rather hoping they'll try to attack. It will give us the perfect opportunity to demonstrate exactly why Earth deserves its independence. As the day progressed, more meetings were held. Earth's leaders explained their position to the Imperial representatives. They did not want war. They did not want to destroy the alien ship or harm its crew. They simply wanted the Empire to recognize Earth's right to remain free. Some of the aliens, like Science Officer Kelvon, seemed to understand. Others, like Grand Marshal Shurketh, refused to accept any outcome except Earth's surrender. By evening, Nancy found herself in a quieter meeting with just Kelvon. They sat in a small room with hot drinks, talking more openly now that the military and political leaders were elsewhere. Your people and the Voidwalkers have lived together for 15,000 years? Kelvon asked. How is that possible? Most species struggle to accept even small differences among themselves. Nancy smiled. It wasn't always easy. For most of history, only a few humans knew the truth. The Voidwalkers were careful to blend in to make themselves look human, but they helped us when we needed it most, during plagues, wars, and disasters. They guided our greatest thinkers and scientists. And now everyone knows? Not everyone, Nancy admitted. Just our governments and scientific communities. The public still thinks our technology is entirely human-made. We'll tell them the full truth when the time is right. Kelvon looked at her thoughtfully. You know, the Empire isn't entirely evil. Many worlds have benefited from our protection and trade networks. I believe you, Nancy said. We don't want to be your enemies. We just want to chart our own course among the stars. As they talked, reports came in that the Imperial reinforcements were getting closer to Earth. Soon humanity would face its greatest test, not just defending against one ship, but against a fleet of them, and the whole galaxy would be watching to see what happened next. Commander Diane Foster crouched behind a control panel on the bridge of the stealth ship Defiant. The only light came from the dim emergency systems. The ship floated silently among the asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. 12 other ships just like it were hidden nearby, all watching the giant alien vessel. How much longer? Foster whispered into her headset. 5 minutes since the deadline passed, replied Chief Engineer Alan Brooks from the engine room. The alien ship hasn't moved. All weapons are ready, Commander. They still don't know we're here. Foster nodded even though no one could see her in the darkness. Earth had been building these stealth ships for the past 10 years. They used special materials that absorbed radar and light. Their engines left. No heat trail. They were invisible to most scanning systems. Lieutenant Rodriguez, what's the status of the alien ship? Foster asked. They're powering up their main weapons, Rodriguez answered from her station. Looks like they're aiming at our defense satellites around Earth. Foster took a deep breath. This was the moment they had trained for. Start Operation Hornet's Nest. Signal the other ships. Throughout the asteroid belt, the 13 stealth ships powered up their systems. Each ship carried special weapons designed not to destroy but to disable. Earth didn't want a war. They wanted to send a message. On the Imperial ship, Grand Marshal Shurketh stood tall on the bridge. He looked down at the blue planet on the screen. Their deadline has passed, he said to his officers. They had their chance to surrender peacefully. Now we will show them the power of the Empire. Target their defense satellites, disable them with low-power beams. Once they see how easily we can remove their protections, they will understand their place. Yes, Grand Marshal, said the weapons officer, working at his console. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. The tactical officer shouted, multiple ships detected. They were hiding in the asteroid belt. Before Shurketh could respond, the Earth ships fired in perfect unison, but they didn't aim at the Imperial ship directly. Instead, they fired at carefully chosen points in space around it. The special torpedoes exploded, creating waves that bent space itself. The huge Imperial ship shook violently. Sir Keth had to grab his command chair to stay standing. Around him, control panels sparked and went dark. The artificial gravity flickered, making everyone on board feel suddenly heavy, then light, then heavy again. "Impossible!" Sir Keth shouted over the alarms. "They're using gravity weapons. A planet this primitive shouldn't have such technology." On the Defiant, Commander Foster watched as the Imperial ship's lights flickered. Their plan was working. The gravity weapons didn't damage the ship's hull, but they disrupted the energy fields that protected it. "All ships move to Phase 2, Foster ordered. "Deploy communication disruptors." The Earth ships fired again. This time they targeted the tall antennas on the Imperial ship. These special weapons didn't destroy the antennas, but blocked the signals they sent and received. "Direct hit," Rodriguez reported. "Their long-range communications are down. They can't call for help." In orbit around Earth, Admiral Wilson watched the operation on his screens. Everything was going according to plan. This was just a warning. "Shot, Grand Marshal," Wilson said, knowing his message was being broadcast to the alien ship. "Your ship is now cut off from your empire. We've shown that we can disable your systems without destroying your vessel. I suggest you reconsider your position." On the Imperial ship, Sir Keth was furious. Half the bridge was dark. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the faces of his crew. "How did they do this?" he demanded. "Our scans showed no advanced technology." His science officer, a smaller alien with blue skin, stepped forward nervously. "Grand Marshal, I believe they may have been hiding their true capabilities. These gravity weapons. I've only seen such technology in ancient records." "What records?" Sir Keth snapped. "The Quantum Wars 15,000 years ago," the science officer said quietly, "when the Empire fought against the Voidwalkers." Sir Keth stared at him. The Voidwalkers were almost a myth, an advanced species that had fought the Empire to a standstill before disappearing. "That's impossible. The Voidwalkers are gone." "Perhaps not entirely," the science officer suggested. "May I have permission to study these weapons more closely?" Sir Keth nodded slowly. "Do it, and get our systems back online. I want to know exactly what we're facing." Back on the Defiant, Foster received new orders from Earth Command. "All ships, maintain positions, keep weapons locked on target. The ball is in their court now." For the next several hours, the Earth ships kept the Imperial vessel surrounded. The alien ship made no aggressive moves as its crew worked to restore power and assess the damage. On Earth, emergency meetings were held in every major government. The President addressed the United Nations, explaining what had happened without causing panic. Today, humanity faced its first test against an alien power, she told the assembled leaders. "We did not blink. We did not bow. And we have shown that Earth will defend its freedom by any means necessary." In a secure facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a group of scientists watched the alien ship on special monitors. But these weren't ordinary scientists. Most looked human, but their eyes had an unusual glow. They were the keepers of Earth's greatest secret. "The test was successful," said one of them, an older man with silver eyes. "The gravity disruptors worked better than expected." "But this is just the beginning," said another. "When the Empire loses contact with this ship, they will send more." "That's what we've been preparing for," the first one replied. "For 15,000 years we've been helping humans develop, teaching them, protecting them. Now they're ready to stand with us." Back in space, Commander Foster received an update from Earth Command. "The President has requested a meeting with representatives from the Imperial ship. We're sending a diplomatic shuttle to bring them down. Maintain defensive positions until further notice." Foster acknowledged the order, and then looked out at the stars. She thought about all the training she had received, all the secret technologies her ship carried. None of it made sense until now. "Do you think they'll agree to talk?" Rodriguez asked her. "They don't have much choice," Foster replied. "Their ship is disabled and they're cut off from their empire. Besides, I think they're curious now. We weren't supposed to have weapons that could hurt them. They want to know how we got them. And are we going to tell them?" Rodriguez asked. Foster smiled slightly. I think that's exactly what the president plans to do. Sometimes the truth is the best weapon of all. On the Imperial ship, Sir Keth received the invitation to meet with Earth's leaders. His first instinct was to refuse, to maintain the dignity of the Empire. But his science officer urged him to accept. Sir, if my theory is correct, there is more to this planet than we know. The Emperor would want you to learn everything you can. Reluctantly, Sir Keth agreed. He selected a small delegation, including the science officer, to accompany him to Earth. As the Imperial shuttle departed for Earth, escorted by Earth fighters, Admiral Wilson watched from his station. Phase 1 complete, he reported to the President. The visitors are on their way. Time to show them who they're really dealing with. 1 month later, Grand Marshal Zhurketh stood stiffly in the Grand Meeting Hall of the United Earth Senate in Geneva. His once perfect uniform was wrinkled, and his scales had lost their bright color. Behind him stood Science Officer Kelvan and 2 other Imperial officers. Earth soldiers watched them closely. The huge room was filled with leaders from every nation on Earth. They sat quietly as President Olivia Carter walked to the center of the room to address the aliens. Grand Marshal, the President began, for 30 days you have stayed in orbit around our planet. You have refused to accept Earth's independence. During that time, your crew has been living with limited power and supplies. Today, our sensors have detected an Imperial fleet entering our solar system. This is exactly what we expected to happen. Zhurketh's scales flickered with surprise. You knew reinforcements would come? Of course, she replied calmly. Your empire would not allow one of its ships to disappear without investigating. So we have prepared accordingly. Large screens around the room showed images from space telescopes. A fleet of 50 huge Imperial warships was approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth. President Carter continued, What you are about to see is a demonstration. After that, you will carry our message back to your Emperor. She nodded to Admiral Wilson, who stood at a control panel nearby. Execute Operation Sovereign Right. Throughout the solar system, hidden machines activated. They were placed on planets, moons, and asteroids. Some were on space stations, some were in orbit around the sun. Together, they created a complex pattern of energy that stretched beyond the orbit of Pluto. On the screens, everyone watched as the Imperial fleet suddenly slowed. Then the ship stopped completely. They were surrounded by a strange amber light that seemed to freeze them in place. What have you done? Sir Keth demanded. His voice was shaking. We have created a time field around your fleet, President Carter explained. Inside that field, time is moving 1,000 times slower than normal. For us, seconds are passing. For them, it's barely a blink of an eye. We could leave them there for years, and they would never know it. Science Officer Kelvan stepped forward, his blue face showing shock. Such technology should be impossible without... He stopped himself, understanding suddenly appearing in his eyes. Yes, Admiral Wilson said. The Voidwalkers shared more than just gravity control with us. President Carter walked closer to Zhurketh until they were face to face. Here is humanity's message to the Galactic Empire. Earth and the entire Sol system are now declared an independent territory. Any Imperial ship entering our space without permission will be considered an act of war. She spoke with strength, but not anger. We have no interest in your empire's politics or territories. We simply wish to be left alone. But if you force us to defend ourselves, what you've seen today is only a small part of what we can do. The Emperor will never accept this, Zhurketh said angrily. No world has ever successfully rejected the Empire. There's a first time for everything, President Carter replied, and Earth will be that first. Your ship's systems have been fixed. You and your crew may leave today and deliver our message to your Emperor. Zhurketh's 4 eyes narrowed. And if I refuse? Then you will stay here as our guest while we send the message ourselves, Wilson said. But I think your Emperor would prefer to hear it from you directly. Later that day, in a private room, Science Officer Kelvan met with Dr. Nancy Rivera one last time before the Imperial delegation departed. I've studied the data from our ship's sensors, Kelvan said quietly. The technology you used against us, It's beyond anything the Empire currently has. Even our oldest records of Voidwalker science don't show such advanced applications. Nancy nodded. The Voidwalkers continued to develop their knowledge while hiding on Earth. They didn't just stop when they arrived here 15,000 years ago. And they shared everything with humans? Not everything, Nancy admitted. Only what we were ready for, but enough to protect ourselves. Kelvon looked troubled. The Grand Marshal is right about one thing. The Emperor won't simply accept Earth's independence. There will be more attempts to bring you under Imperial control. We expect that, Nancy said. This is just the first step in what might be a long process, but we had to start somewhere. May I ask you something? Kelvon's voice was softer, now. Why are you telling me all this? Why show me your capabilities? Nancy smiled slightly. Because the Empire needs to understand what they're facing. This isn't a primitive world that can be easily conquered. This is a planet with the power to defend itself. And more importantly, a planet that wants peace but refuses to be controlled. I understand, Kelvon said, and I will make sure others in the Imperial government understand as well. Not everyone in the Empire supports endless expansion. Some of us believe in cooperation rather than conquest. At the same time, in another room, Grand Marshal Zur Keth was receiving final instructions from President Carter and Admiral Wilson. You will be given all sensor data from today's demonstration, the President told him. Make sure your Emperor sees it. Make sure he understands that Earth could have destroyed your ships but chose not to. Shirketh's scales were dark with anger, but he nodded stiffly. I will deliver your message, but don't expect the Empire to simply walk away. We have ruled the galaxy for 20,000 years. One small planet cannot change that. Perhaps not alone, Wilson said. But we're not alone anymore. The door opened and Professor John Butler entered. His silver eyes glowed slightly as he looked at the Grand Marshal. Behind him came 3 more people with the same silver eyes. For millennia, my people hid from the Empire, Butler said. We thought we were the last of our kind, but recently we've discovered others. Voidwalkers who escaped to other planets, who hid among other species, just as we hid among humans. Shirketh's eyes widened. Impossible. In fact, very possible, Butler replied. And now that we know we're not alone, we're reaching out to our scattered people. Together with humanity, we're building something new. Not an empire, but an alliance. A community of free worlds that help each other while respecting each other's independence. The Emperor will see this as a direct challenge to Imperial authority, Zur Keth warned. That's his choice, President Carter said. We offer peace and mutual respect. If the Empire chooses conflict instead, it will face not just Earth, but a growing alliance of worlds that want freedom. That evening, the Imperial delegation boarded their ship. The Earth forces allowed them to power up all systems and leave orbit. The amber field around the Imperial fleet disappeared and the ships resumed normal movement. Grand Marshal Zur Keth sent a message to the fleet commander, explaining what had happened and ordering them not to attack. Then all the Imperial ships turned and left the solar system. On Earth, people watched the news about the alien ships leaving. Most didn't know the full story yet. They didn't know about the Voidwalkers living among them or the advanced technology hidden beneath the ocean. They just knew that Earth had faced its first alien threat and had somehow convinced them to leave peacefully. In the White House, President Carter met with her closest advisors and several Voidwalker representatives. Do you think they'll respect our borders? She asked Professor Butler. Not immediately, he answered honestly. The Empire is not used to being denied. They will test us, probe our defenses, look for weaknesses. It may take years before they truly accept Earth's independence. Then we'll have to be ready, the President said. How soon can we set up the defense network around the outer planets? The Saturn and Jupiter installations are already operational, Admiral Wilson reported. Neptune and Uranus will be online within 6 months. The Kuiper Belt stations will take longer, perhaps a year. And our new ships? The first fleet will be ready for launch next month, Wilson said. With Voidwalker drive systems, they can reach Alpha Centauri in less than a week. Dr. Nancy Rivera spoke up. The most important thing now is to find more allies. The Voidwalkers have identified 3 other worlds where their people might be hiding. If we can make contact with them, build our alliance. President Carter nodded. That will be our priority then. Strengthen our defenses here, but reach out to potential friends out there. Humanity has stepped onto the galactic stage. We need to make sure we're not standing alone. As the meeting continued, satellites tracked the Imperial fleet as it moved away from Earth. For now, at least, the immediate danger had passed. Earth had declared its independence, and the Galactic Empire had been forced to listen. The message had been delivered. Earth was not a world to be conquered. Earth was not a prize to be claimed. Earth was a sovereign planet that would chart its own course among the stars, and anyone who tried to say otherwise would not be welcome here. 5 years later, Professor Ryan Daniels stood in front of a large group of students at the Earth Defense Academy in New Beijing. The school had been built after the confrontation with the Empire. It trained young people from all over the world to protect Earth and work with alien allies. Behind Ryan was a big screen showing the edge of the solar system. Thousands of small satellites formed a glowing ring around it. These satellites watched for any ships entering Earth space and controlled the defense systems. The Border Treaty of 2031 was the first time in known galactic history that the Empire officially recognized the full independence of a non-member world, Ryan explained to his students. Earth remains the only inhabited planet within Imperial space that maintains complete independence. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Professor, is it true that Imperial citizens need special permission to visit Earth now? Ryan smiled. Yes, Cadet Johnson, and those permits are not easy to get. Our embassy on the Imperial capital world of Xanthar approves fewer than 1,000 visitors each year. Most are scientists and cultural exchange students. Another student raised his hand. What about the Voidwalkers? Do they still live among us? They've always been among us, Ryan replied. He touched a small silver pin on his collar, a symbol many humans now wore to honor their ancient protectors. After the Imperial threat was managed, many Voidwalkers chose to reveal themselves publicly. The knowledge they've shared has helped us grow faster than we ever expected. The screen behind him changed to show a large spaceship in orbit around Earth. It was sleek and beautiful, unlike the blocky military vessels Earth had built before. The name Horizon was painted on its side. Next week, humanity will take its first journey beyond our local star neighborhood, Ryan continued. We will not go as conquerors or empire builders, but as explorers and peacekeepers. The Voidwalkers taught us that real strength comes from wisdom and self-control, not from controlling others. He pointed to the back of the room, where a tall being with silvery skin and eyes like stars stood quietly watching. The students turned to look. Ambassador Velnara of the Voidwalker Council will now answer your questions about the joint Earth Voidwalker exploration mission. As the alien walked to the front of the room, Ryan stepped aside. He thought about how much had changed in just 5 years. Earth had gone from an isolated world to a respected power that even the mighty Galactic Empire did not dare to challenge. After class, Ryan walked through the Academy gardens with Ambassador Velnara. The alien moved with grace, her silvery skin gleaming in the sunlight. The students show great promise, Velnara said. They understand the balance between strength and restraint that so many species never learn. They've had good teachers, Ryan replied, both human and Voidwalker. They stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the city. New Beijing was one of Earth's newest cities, built using a mix of human and Voidwalker architecture. Tall buildings with curved lines rose into the sky. Between them, parks and gardens brought nature into the city. The Imperial Ambassador requested another meeting this morning, Velnara said. They want to discuss expanding trade relations. Ryan nodded. 5 years ago, they wanted to rule us. Now they want to trade with us. I'd call that progress. Progress, indeed, the ambassador agreed. Though we must remain vigilant, the Empire has not abandoned its expansion goals. They have simply adjusted their approach with Earth. Ryan looked up as a small ship flew overhead, one of the new shuttles that could travel from Earth to the Moon in less than an hour. Have you received any new signals from the Voidwalker colony in the Andromeda Galaxy? Yes, Velnara's eyes brightened. Our long-range quantum communicators made contact last month. They've built a thriving community there, far from Imperial influence. They're eager to reconnect with us. That's where the horizon is heading, isn't it? The ambassador nodded. The first stop on a very long journey. A journey that humans and Voidwalkers will make together. Later that day, Ryan attended a meeting at the Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Representatives from Earth's military, scientific, and political communities gathered around a large table. On screens around the room, leaders from other countries. Joined virtually, Admiral Garcia, who had replaced the now-retired Admiral Wilson, stood to address the group. The border monitoring stations report Imperial activity near Neptune's orbit. 3 ships, likely a scientific expedition rather than military. They're maintaining their distance from the boundary markers. Have they requested entry? Asked the Secretary General of the United Nations. Not yet, Garcia replied. But they've been observing the quantum relay station we built on Triton. Dr. Linda Chen, the new head of Earth's physics division, spoke up. They're probably trying to understand how our communication system works. The Empire still doesn't have technology that can match our quantum networks. Should we be concerned? The Secretary General asked. Ryan shook his head. This is normal behavior. The Empire studies what it doesn't understand. But they've respected our borders for 5 years now. The demonstration with their fleet taught them that lesson well. The meeting continued, covering updates on the new defense systems, the growing alliance with other free worlds, and the upcoming launch of the Horizon. Earth was not just surviving as an independent world, it was thriving. That evening, Ryan stood on the balcony of his apartment looking up at the stars. A small drone delivered a package, a new book about the early days of human Voidwalker cooperation. Even now, new information was being released to the public as the remaining secrets were gradually revealed. His phone rang. It was Captain Laura Scott, the commander of the Horizon. Professor, she greeted him. I just wanted to thank you for your help with the cultural exchange protocols. The Voidwalker crew members say they're the most thoughtful guidelines they've ever seen. I'm glad they approve, Ryan said. The success of this mission depends on humans and Voidwalkers working together as equals. That's why I called, actually, Scott said. We've received a request from the Imperial Science Academy. They want to send an observer on our mission. What do you think? Ryan considered this. It could be a genuine scientific interest, or it could be the Empire trying to keep an eye on us. Probably both, Scott said with a laugh. But Ambassador, Velnara thinks we should agree. Show them that we're not afraid to have them watch what we're doing. I agree with her, Ryan said after a moment. Our strength isn't in keeping secrets anymore. It's in showing the galaxy a different way of doing things, a better way than empire building. When the call ended, Ryan looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Imperial capital world continued its rule over thousands of planets. But now there was an alternative. Earth and its growing alliance of free worlds were proving that independence and cooperation could exist side by side. The next week, Ryan stood with thousands of others at the Space Launch Center in Kenya to watch the Horizon depart. The massive ship rose slowly from its dock, then faster and faster until it was just a bright point in the sky. Ambassador Velnara stood beside him, her silver eyes tracking the ship long after human eyes could no longer see it. For 15,000 years my people sought safety among yours, she said quietly. Now together we return to the stars not as refugees but as explorers and friends. The universe awaits. Ryan nodded. And any empire that tries to stop us will hear the same message we gave 5 years ago. He didn't need to say the words. Everyone on Earth knew them by heart now. They were written on the boundary markers at the edge of the solar system, broadcast on all frequencies to any ship that approached. Earth is a free and sovereign world. Respect our independence, and you will find friendship. Threaten our freedom, and you will find strength. The choice is yours. But know this. If you come in peace, you are welcome here. If you come to conquer, you are not. The end.